Right.
Morning. Morning. My name
Good
is
morning.
Cherie. Hello. My name is Cherie, and I'm the creative director here at Urban Youth Workers. And I'd love for us to just, go over the schedule today and do a couple housekeeping items at the top. So, first of all, rules of engagement. If you could, when you're not talking, have your microphone muted. That will just help with the audio experience. But when you're ready to talk, you can unmute yourself. And also, if you don't have your video going and you want to be seen, make sure you have your video activated. Rules of engagement as well is when you have your video on, just be aware of your surroundings. So I don't know if any of you seen that video, poor Jennifer, but yeah, she went to the bathroom while on a Zoom call. So just make sure like you don't have anything crazy going on so that, we don't have to watch you do your thing. Okay. All right. So chat, we will want you guys to interact with us today. This is really about hearing from you. So there's a chat to the right and you can put your questions in the chat and those will be fed to us throughout the call so that we can answer those questions. What we're going to do today is Tommy's going to go ahead and intro us with a big idea, leading through crisis, talk on that for a little bit. Then we're going to ask you guys 4 questions. We really want you to participate with that. After that, we're going to let you ask questions. So this is where you give us questions and we'll crowdsource the answers. After that, we're going to have Sean Fenner talk about the vision for our national networks that we're launching. And then we'll close with a group picture. We're just going to take a screenshot just for fun, lighten the mood a little bit. And then I'll talk about what's upcoming as far as more Zoom calls and different things like that. So does that all make sense? Everybody good? Yeah. All right, cool. All right, Mr. Tommy Nixon, what you got for us?
Hey, what's up, guys, man? I just want to start off with just saying how proud we are of all of you guys. If you're getting up in the morning, getting ready and thinking about how to reach your youth or how to engage in this during this pandemic, dude, you're amazing. Because even for me, if I'm really honest, every morning just feels like, okay, I got to gear up and we got to continue to lead. Friends, I want to just impress on you. Now is not the time to just hold up and just be like, well, I'm just gonna hang out till this pass. No, this is the time. I am telling you right now, for your youth and for those who you're engaging with, because of this pandemic, people are open, man. They desperately need hope. And you have been put in this place for such a time as this to give that hope. Now, you can't do that unless you're being healthy and you're in a good rhythm. So I want to just impress on us. I'm pressing us. We got to keep leading. We got to keep on getting up and stepping in. But you have to be healthy enough to do that. So encourage you guys to have a good rhythm in your life. Make sure that you're spending that time with Jesus. Make sure that you're drinking that water and you're getting that sleep and you're doing some exercising, and that you have a regular rhythm that you're engaging in so that you can continue to show up every day and reach out to these youth and your context with the gospel and the hope of Jesus Christ. And so we just want to say thank you. Thank you to every single one of you who are out there and just trying to figure this out. And so we're trying to figure it out with you. We're here to encourage you. We want to care for you, and we want to make sure that you're resourced in this. And so today what we're going to be doing is we want to know from you, what are the core pain points that you're experiencing right now? Because we are committed to continuing to create resources to make sure that you have everything you need to continue to reach your youth with the gospel and to continue that relationship and to care for the youth during this time. I do want to give you a little bit of vision. The reason why this is so important, it's not just about trying to get through the pandemic. Your youth are the ones that are going to be leading the church. And so because of that, what you do now is going to impress on them. They're going to remember the pandemic. They're going to remember this point in time, and they're going to remember what you did, what you said, how you reached out, and how you led them and allowed them to lead during this time. If you are pouring into your youth now, these are the people that are going to be leading our church in the future. And we believe the future is here right now. Our communities are going to, especially our communities, are going to experience a lot of brokenness and hurt from this pandemic. And our vision is to see you lead these youth so that they can restore and rebuild broken communities globally. That's our 2025 vision. And we believe that it's up to us right now and to you to lead these youth so that they're the ones that help join in to restore and rebuild our broken communities, because the pandemic doesn't help that at all. And so we really believe that. So that's some vision for you. So today's call is all about, okay, what we want to hear from you so that we know how we can best encourage you, care for you, and resource you so that you have the tools and everything you need to lead these youth well and to reach out and to share the gospel and to live that out among the youth in your context. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to pose some things for us, and I'm going to ask you to hit us up in the chat. Now, if you're on Facebook, feel free you could chat on there as well. We got some staff that are looking at all those, and we'll send it in. And we want to know from you, what's your pain points so that we're best positioned to help you do what you're awesome at. And so here's the thing. The first question, we have 4 questions for you. We're going to spend about 10 minutes on each. The first question is this: what is the biggest personal leadership struggle you are having right now in this crisis? Okay, what is the biggest personal leadership struggle that you are having right now in this crisis? And so take that minute. It's going to be in the group chat. You can put that in there. There it is right there. And so go ahead, start answering that, and we're gonna just in real time just check this out. So I see my man Thomas. My man Thomas said the core pain point for me is the bivocational youth worker having to produce more content and engagement during this time, and it's hard to do that, right? It's challenging with a balance. And I know you guys are making it work, Thomas. I saw you started that network out in DC, man. Proud of you, brother. Keep on leading. Andrew, is that biggest pain point is that all my ministry has been directed to be done digitally, but none of my kids have a phone or computer to be reached by. That is massive, man. We might have to go analog on that, brother. So that's huge. It's right there. The questions in the chat. Go ahead and type in what you're dealing with. So what is the biggest personal leadership struggle that you're having right now in this crisis? If I'm honest, for me, as you guys write that, for me, sometimes it's just knowing what to do. There either seems to be so much or that it's changing every day that I get up and I'm like, okay, I feel like there's so much to do. What do I do first? That's been a big challenge for me. The other one is just feeling like I have so many Zoom calls that I can't get any work done. All right, so we have some more. Vanessa Cruz, there are so many social platforms to use and so many having to figure out what to do and what would be best for our kiddos. Like there's so many options. Where are they at? How are we going to do it? That's awesome. Mm-hmm. JP said, how do our youth workers reach out to the youth? We use GroupMe, but no one responds. Ooh. Okay, so those are some of your main pain points. We're trying things out and it's not working. The feeling that there's so much to be done, right? I did mention that. Thanks, Caleb. About there's so many meetings to have, I can't actually get the work done. Erica, managing how this new normal with my family, and not all students have access. That's good. Like finding a new rhythm. Bobby Lopez, man, absolutely. Getting those kids to engage digitally. Good. Keep it up, friends. Like the reason we're asking you to put it all down here is because we want to take this information, we're going to poll it and figure this out so that we can address this stuff in real time for you guys. I think it seems like one of the things too is keeping kids engaged. The first week, everybody was popping, and now students aren't responding anymore. Amy said, balancing time where I'm not on my phone screen or available to those I'm discipling, so I'm present with my family and myself. That is a real one. And that's super, super hard. And then battling my own concerns about finances in the future, bringing hope. How can you bring hope when you're worried about your own? That's real. Jose Campos, Biggest pain point is that our teams have a shorter attention span. Absolutely, man. Okay, William Cumby, for those of you guys, my man Will in Houston, those of you guys who are at churches, a pain point is managing youth ministry goals with main sanctuary goals. Friends, that is a big deal. For those of you who are church-based ministries, I actually believe that this changes the whole game. And we're gonna be coming out with a podcast talking about the future to figure out what does this mean for the church. That's a big one. Okay, getting the attention of our youth. Andrea or Andrea said that. Also, if we can, we're putting out the poll right now, so you can go ahead. That probably keeps on popping up on your screen, so feel free to go ahead, take that poll. That helps us know how we can best support you guys. And Ilsian, feeling limited in reaching all youth who are not engaged online. That seems like a big one. I was on a call with Randy Davis, who's the executive director of National Network for Youth Ministries, earlier this morning. And some of his people are having this problem. One of his suggestions was, hey, write them letters. Like, get mad analog on this, you know what I mean? And his point was, for those who aren't online, if there are ways to reach out to them. They heard from some of their kids that they wanted, just feeling bored, or they wanted a snack or something. They went and got donuts or made donuts and put it in all their mailboxes. It's just ways to kind of reach out if they're not in that digital space. But if you write them a letter, a lot of times he was like, I bet you at the end of this whole thing, that letter will be posted up in the room somewhere, because you took the time to write them, let them know that you're thinking about them. And so that was a good idea. Tanisha, our girl in New York, trying to plan and schedule activities throughout the week, but not having available leaders to make that happen. A leadership challenge for a lot of us is, how do you lead your people? Another conversation I had earlier today, how do you keep your staff and your volunteers healthy if they're pouring out all the time? How are they caring for themselves, and how can you as the leader care for them in this time? That all has to do with rhythm. Cherie hit me up yesterday about our own team. Hey, just making sure that we're healthy, right? And hey, we got a lot going on. And as the leader here, I need to hear that from my people, and we need to come up with plans to make sure that everybody's feeling all right, and that we're pacing well. All right, a couple more on this one, and then we're going to move on to question number 2. Yeah, Kimmy said on Facebook, continue to lead our leaders. It's hard when we're not on the same schedule anymore and don't see each other as often. All the hallway conversations aren't happening. I found I'm exhausted from Zoom calls, because it feels, I don't know what it is, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, it's like draining to try to be on and engaged and, to be present with somebody when you want to be like working, but you got to be here with them. It's tough. My man Patrick out in Michigan had a growing relationship with the local youth centers, youth jails before this, trying to think through how to work out this business side of our work. Like, here's the other thing. As a leader, I'm finding, and I'm sure for you guys, you had some dreams and partnerships moving forward, and everything's changed. So which ones do you pick? Which ones do you still press into? Which ones do you just need to let go because it doesn't make sense anymore? Hard decisions to make. All right. I'm going to move on. We have that. We have that. So we're recording this, and we have it so we hear you guys on that. And so I want to move on to question number 2. So this is our question for you guys. What is the biggest challenge you are having in staying connected to your community? Now, some of you guys already kind of said some of that. What's the biggest challenge that you're having staying connected to your community? Now, that could be your students. That could be your volunteers. It could be your leadership. It could be your church community. What's the biggest challenge you're having in staying connected to your community? We had a couple of those on here. if we moved on from a question and you want to still answer that in here. First one was, what was your biggest personal leadership struggle you were having right now in this crisis? And I'll frame that again, leadership struggle. What's your biggest leadership struggle for that? And then the number two, what is the biggest challenge you're having staying connected to your community? Jose Campos said, pain point knowing that our kids were struggling with anxiety and depression before this. But this situation exacerbated that. Their home life is not the healthiest. Now they're forced to stay home. That's a huge one. Carrying the weight, leadership would be carrying the weight of the burden. I know a consideration too, and a thought was for all those kids that had freedom from abusive homes, now they're stuck in the home with the person that is abusing them. There are a lot of, the reality is there's a lot of creepy family members that are abusing kids, and this gives them the opportunity to do that more. We hope that because everybody's in the house, maybe that'll stop, but that's a huge consideration. So the leadership weight of carrying that all the time. That's good. Bobby Lopez just said, biggest challenge you're having staying connected is staying encouraged. Pain point. Kevin Nickerson, you said leadership struggle. You want to share a little bit more about that, brother? Like, just type that out a little bit more. Like, what specifically?
I'm sorry, I hit enter before I could. So I fixed it right there. I tried to type it out.
Kevin, since I got you on right here, just share with us right now.
Just what to preach on, like how to encourage people while still bringing the truth of the gospel, and like just how to encourage our youngsters through the word.
Yeah. It does, one thing could be like, does every message have to be about COVID-19? Yeah. You know what I mean? How do you relook at the Bible? I just want to encourage you within all this, family. God's calling us into opportunities for us to look at scripture in a different way, for us to practice presence, for us to grow deeper with God, for us to have a deep need for him. And then to create, the hard thing is then to create the space to press into that. You can't lead people where you haven't been, or you haven't been in a while. So make sure that you are living this stuff out. Care for yourself so that you can care for others. Make sure you're getting that time with Jesus, friends. Even if it's rough, even if it's confusing, have that conversation with God. He can handle it. Breezy says, Latino parents not knowing how to work technology, not having an email address, walking them via phone calls, or FaceTime to help them understand simple steps of email. That's a real, biggest challenge for staying connected community. Carl Edwards, man, as a nonprofit who's supported financially by our community, it feels weird to be asking for money during this time. Carl, that's a real one. But the needs within our community are still relevant and growing during this time. We still need to provide resources. It's tough. I was on a call with a foundation, one of our foundations yesterday, and they were kind of on me a little bit. They were like, hey, you need to make sure that you're sticking close to your donors, letting them know what you're doing. And I was like, man, I hear that. I receive that. I was a little bit like, I'm also working my butt off, on this other side, you know what I mean? But it was an important word to make sure that our those who partner with us financially know what we're doing. And it might not be the first time it's not like we come out the gate, hey, we need money, but making sure the communication's happening, Carl, and making sure that they know what you're up to, because you're doing amazing work. People need to know about it. So I get that one. Let's see. Cons with local schools. Andrew's like, it's easier to get contacts with our local schools than our local churches. So some partnership difficulties there in leadership. Caleb Reed also said, man, what Carl's talking about. So anybody else just feel like they want to share on number one or number two, we'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself and kind of speak into it. Amy, why don't you, since you just wrote right there, Amy, How about you share a little bit with us what you're talking about here? This is my girl in Long Beach, California.
Hey, yeah, I was just saying it can, because you're asking how it's been hard connecting with community.
Yeah.
And I think with working at a local church and everyone already oversees different ministries and it can be kind of compartmentalized, it's just been difficult with everyone working remotely, and there's not a lot of team time, not a lot of time together. It's kind of like everyone's remotely doing their own thing.
Yeah. That's so good, Amy. Anybody else feeling that, where it's like we're not collaborating, we're just all scrambling to do our own thing? How many podcasts can there be, right? Or pastors coming on videos? Like, it's me too, so I get it, man. So that's good. Anybody else, man, want to share a one or two? You can undo your mic, speak on it.
Hey, this is Will Cumby, man. I heard one of the questions is, what do we teach about or what do we preach about during this time? To be honest, when I'm building messages during the season, I've got one hand on the Bible and another hand like just scouring the internet to see like what's trending, what's happening, what's happening with teens. My teen's biggest thing right now is I don't have prom. I don't have graduation. I don't have those experiences. Tell me, how do I navigate those waters, right? One of the things that I've also been doing is I have a teen council, which is like my select group. And what we must remember during this time, and I think Bobby talked about it the other day, was we still have to make those physical connects. So I'll call my teens and be like, hey, so what's happening at home? How are you feeling? What's going through your head? And usually something they will say will trigger a thought for how I should create the message. Or, you know what? I'm just straight up with them. What do you think? What do you think y'all want to hear about? Like, what's going on? I don't want to just talk about COVID every day. What's really happening? And when they share those things with me, and of course, taking that to the Holy Spirit, I'm allowed to, I can build messages. Last night, we talked about the benefit of being broken. And it was based on the fact that I used the term, Jesus broke the internet on Sunday. And I said, what's the benefit of that? And we talked about things that are being broken right now during the season and how we can benefit from that brokenness. And then where it talks about how he's close to the brokenhearted. But I don't want to talk forever, but that's just my thought on that topic right there.
No, that's so good, Will. Thank you, brother. Cherie's asking, when's the last time any of you got just a chance to laugh? You could put it on there. I've seen some of those COVID-19 rap videos. Some of them are a little explicit. I'm gonna tell you right now, I laughed at those too. I'm sorry, but some of them were hilarious. But and there's some great stuff out there, man. Because I know if I'm not laughing, I'm not doing well. So, yep. All right. Yeah, man, I love it. Thomas, man, I'm FaceTiming, calling friends to joke about anything and everything, so not to be consumer media. That's a super healthy rhythm, man. So keep that up. Hey, I'm gonna move on to the next question for us. Number 3, what is the biggest need you find yourself filling right now within your community? What is the biggest need you find yourself filling right now within your community? So go ahead, write some of those responses. Kimmy said using the Bunch app with our students because they're so funny. That's for what's making you laugh right now. I know Bobby Lopez, one of his leaders, did a TikTok video about slanging toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and I thought it was hilarious, man. And what was really funny is like this kid, one of his leaders, it was all him, and he just filmed himself. So he's just out in the street by himself, like filming this like little TikTok video. Hilarious, man. So it's good stuff. So the question's in the chat. What is the biggest need you find yourself filling right now? Not feeling. You find yourself filling right now within your community. Andrew was partnering with the school district to help with meal distributions. That's the biggest need. Yeah, man.
can I share a minute about that, Tommy?
Yeah, please.
So, yeah, the family involvement coordinator for our school district actually contacted me and said, "Hey, can you ride on some buses and hand out food and these break bags that we have with a team of like 3 people?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a great time because there's a lot of people within our school district who are seeing the asset that our ministry has to reach the community in this time. So I'm really blessed by that."
That's good, man. Thank you, brother. I know my family, we picked up lunch at a school the other day, and they asked, hey, do you have neighbors that you can give food to? And so we grabbed a bunch of food and we dropped it off for our neighbors as well. That some people that couldn't get out. So, okay. Biggest need, getting supplies to them and encouraging them. I know Bobby, who's in East LA, was taking, he had asked his donors, and this is back to the question about fundraising. You can also engage your donors by saying, here's what we need, like physical items, because they would want to give to what's happening right now. So I know Bobby had to drive a little bit about for, I think it was like wet wipes and toilet paper and hand sanitizer. So it was good. Anybody else want to share? What is the biggest need you find yourself filling right now within your community? There's a lot of us that are saying just letting the kids know that we're there. Does anybody else have one that's like, man, this is a little bit different than that? Let's see. Anybody want to share on that? You can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wrote this on the Facebook, but the biggest thing that I've been doing is having to like step by step walk through like older leadership members, like older than my parents, on technology, and that has been extremely time consuming. And then half the time it doesn't work because with that particular community, if you may, you have to physically be there showing them how to do stuff. And if I send them a video tutorial and they're just like, wait, how do you play this? Where do you play and what? And it's just like, oh my gosh. So, and that's not even like my area of like, I'm not the person to come to like to do these things, So it's like all of a sudden I'm the video tech, I'm the audio, like I had to set up a whole video call, and it was just like, and sure, like fine, I'll fill in the gaps what needed, but it's just interesting when it's like you already have to function in the, on your feet type of role, and then now it's like to a whole nother level. So it's been funny, but just gotta laugh about it. Yeah.
Dude, that's the Holy Spirit that you can laugh about that, because we all know what it's like trying to help our parents figure out technology. It's super frustrating. And luckily my mom lives with my sister, so the Lord has spared me from that. But yeah, that's a big one. Tanner was saying, living in a rural area, everyone does not have internet, so some of the students don't have the opportunity to connect with us where others do. That seems like a big thing that honestly I didn't even think about when this whole thing started. So yeah. So what is the biggest need you find yourself filling right now within your community? I know for some of our leaders, it's the mental health piece for students and making sure that people are okay. I was on the phone call yesterday with a young man, and that's what he was dealing with. That's a ton of anxiety and helping him through that, coaching him through that, and figuring out how we can get him some help. Yeah. Cherie, do you want to speak on that, what you just wrote?
I didn't write anything.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I think that's John. Sorry.
Mr. John. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John,
Tommy,
do you want to?
And everyone else on the call. So when we're talking about some of these pain points, I know obviously we have, the work that we're called to for the ministry side of things, but family and managing that has been a big one. I think Tommy led with that. So if you're kind of thinking of some pain points, maybe you think about what stresses you out or what's triggering you right now. right? Like if it's like, now I got to homeschool my kids and I'm mad, you know, like I'm pretty mad. These memes are not funny. They're like, someone's listening into my house right now. But that might help you, and you know, just give you a space to unload it, guys. So I just wanted to give you guys some help, maybe prompting with that.
Yeah, anybody for you guys, anybody want to speak on that? How has this been triggering for you? A lot of us come from trauma, and that we're coming from the places that we're still engaging in, and it's tough. Having 2 kids under 2 years old, very little personal space. Yeah, dude. Brother, I feel you, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can speak on that in regards to just family stuff. My husband and I have been doing a lot of like collaborating like we never have before in regards to like both of us are working full time at home. He is the IT coordinator for a middle school in our neighborhood, and so his job has just spiked up even with them moving completely to online, and so he's high in demand right now with his job. And we're both constantly on Zoom calls and constantly fielding people and questions and care, in addition to our small children at home who are now navigating what it looks like to do school online. And so for us, what I'm fighting for is the same thing, is just like, how do I find that space to have some self-care? I was wrestling with that before this hit, because all of us we're doers. We're used to hitting the ground running. And so most of us function that way. But what does that look like for us to take time to really care for our families and our kids in this time, as well as others, finding that balance? I know there's no perfect answer and there's no perfect scenario, but the Lord's grace is big enough. And so just leaning into that and leaning into his word and doing that together, and being okay with not like, my biggest thing has been giving myself grace. So if I could speak to that to anyone else in this call, like, I don't give myself enough grace that this is like week 1 of us doing this full time, and knowing that like God's big enough. Like God's got our ministries, God's got our kids, God's got the money, God's got all of the resources that we need. And it's really prideful of me to be like, it's on my shoulders, and if I don't, it's going to fall apart. God just put the whole entire country on pause. So it's like, let's not forget that we are not supposed to be like these heroes. We are partnering with God in what he's already doing. So I'm going to stop before I start preaching, but yeah.
No. Maybe you just need to preach, sister. Like, we'll receive it. Let me ask this, because this is actually really interesting. On this part, how many of you guys, if we were continue to create content around this space, around caring for you guys, around dealing with trauma. I have a good friend of mine who's a co-pastor with me at my church. His name's Dr. Dave Wang, and I've asked him to create he's a psychologist, and some self-care stuff to understand how to deal with stress, anxiety, and trauma. Do you like, if we were creating things like that for you guys, how important do you think that would be? Because I know we're all focused on the kids, but my heart and my concern even before all this was you guys, because we all come from this place of trauma. 2, we're all doers, like Erica said. 3, we all come from an unhealthy system, right? The church institution, and structures that we've had in the church don't really help that, and some of our theology doesn't help that as either, where it's like, we got to just go, and then I'll die someday. Well, but then we're not living the abundant life that Jesus, died for, to give us. And then our young people are seeing that, and they're like, I don't even want that. So yeah, I see. Yes. Anybody else? Like, hey, can I ask Bobby, would you be willing to share a little bit about like how this has been triggering?
So like, I don't know, man, like there's a lot of things that I overcame, and I did a lot of emotional work, housework. to get to this point, you know, and I don't have like, my PTSD comes from childhood more than anything, and yeah, myself going, it's the same old battles. Like now I'm waking up in the night, flipping out again over nothing, and it's really discouraging to kind of go through that. I'm fighting thoughts that I thought were like long gone, but I mean, I'm used to the battle. Like I feel like the PTSD. I was talking to my therapist, and he said everybody's kind of caught up to me in the anxieties now. And so the whole world is kind of experiencing now, like the level of trauma that our level of like anxiety that I normally feel, but mine's just raised up like a lot, and I just feel it's really discouraging, and I almost need more emotional focus. I realized this morning that I need more focus on my emotional health than ever, because they say when you stress, you regress, and I'm regressing in a lot of areas that, I really thought they were long gone. I'm really kind of disappointed and fighting, and at the same time, I still got to keep my youth group together and keep my family focused forward during this time. And then some of the people that live with us, some of the young people, they have their trauma, and so I'm trying to talk them to it, and it feels like we're all getting shot at in every direction. I really don't know where to go, but I have to keep telling them where to go, you know. So that's where I'm at. But we're breaking it through.
Hey, Bobby, man, thanks for being just honest and raw. And I would imagine there's others of us on this call that are dealing with that, and maybe not as extreme, or maybe just
very good.
as extreme.
All right. How did Champion?
And so we, I think this might be a real thing. So if this is something that you're dealing with, man, hit us up, let us know, because we want to figure out how can we support each other in that, and help each other maintain healthy rhythms and boundaries. Because I see you, Bobby. You guys are doing a lot of work, man. You guys are doing a great job. And so, but we need to make sure that you're cared for and healthy as well, brother. I love you, man. I'm gonna, as keep on speaking into this. Last question for us, number 4. What area of life is your community feeling hit the hardest? What area of life is your community feeling hit the hardest? We're gonna put that in the group chat as well. I love Elsie just said we need to ask ourselves what are we doing to be sustainable? How long can we keep this up? Friends, I tend to think much longer than shorter. It kind of bothers me when people are like, yeah, like a couple of weeks and we'll be good. I don't think that's the reality. I think this is gonna be a little while. And so we need to dig in, and we really need to take care of ourselves, so that we can take care of others, man. So that was the last question. What area of life is your community hit the hardest? Go ahead and answer that. If somebody wants to unmute and share what that is, that would be really great. Financially. Okay.
Yeah, Tommy, if I could speak on that for just a minute, I think the cycles of poverty that we experience in the inner city, one of the things that's been extremely frustrating to me, just going back to what Bobby was saying, and really is regressing and drawing out anger and frustration, is the way that a lot of suburban leaders are responding to this. They're playing games of like gather toilet paper, gather hand sanitizer, gather these things, take as many things as you can in one picture. And we have kids hitting us up like, hey, bro, I have no toilet paper in my house. Like, we can't afford groceries this week. And so it's the reality that this crisis hits people very differently depending on the income of their family, the city that they live in, the infrastructure of the city that they're in, the part of the city that they live in, access to healthcare and medical realities. I have kids that can't pick up prescriptions right now. So the reality is that I think in dealing with income structure, it's important for our brothers and sisters that are in higher income areas and suburban settings to recognize that this hits in people that are experiencing poverty in a completely different way. And then there's this self-deprecating thing that happens because you don't want to reach out and ask for help. You don't know how to ask for help. You don't know who to ask for help. And so it's just a reminder that we have to be super sensitive to what our kids are going through. Kids experiencing poverty are much more likely to experience suicidal thoughts, think about killing themselves. Mental health is an extreme issue that we need to talk through and deal with. And so I think for me, just recognizing that poverty is a stronghold that's been just amplified in this crisis reality for a lot of our students.
It's so good, Sean. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I love how you frame that, bro.
And Tommy, can I share to that as well? I've spoken to a few different youth workers around the country, and their concern is going to be the rise of crime. Just when there's more desperation, like there's going to be probably a rise of crime, and where that may be the most prevalent is in a lot of our communities, right? And the idea of like, hey, urban communities are going to get scapegoated in this as being like where things are going wrong, but really the work that a lot of you guys are doing is so significant. And so the concern is like, yeah, what's going to happen if crime starts to rise, and how can we be a response to that? I don't know yet, but that's what some youth workers like yourselves have already been kind of foreseeing, right? Like, is that going to become an issue, and how do you get ahead of that, start to look ahead of those kinds of things? So that's like, I think where our communities are going to be hit really hard, and it just helps for us to foresee that. Some of you guys are already on that, like are looking towards like, what do we need to do to help our young people not get to that desperate point, or how can we be a place for them, to find refuge, to find solace. So just wanted to share that feedback from a different, some other youth workers that I've already spoken to.
Well, that's good, John. I see Limarie also just said one of the area of life that your community feeling hit the hardest is isolation. When you're not hearing back from certain people and it makes you nervous, right? And it's like, and again, like carrying that could be triggering. That could, all the things that we can't control. So, Erica, our students and their family are crammed into 1 or 2 bedroom apartments during this quarantine. I think, back to what Bobby was sharing, that in our own brokenness and trauma, like this stuff comes out. You get angry. You get, you know what I mean? Like I didn't realize how much anger I had until I started having kids. Like, how can I be so angry at a baby, that just won't stop crying? And I had to do the work, like Bobby's talking about, to like really understand that and figure out and deal with it. This is a reality for a lot of our people. It's like why it always gets more violent during the summer, right? It's hot because people, it's almost like we're in that space right now. And so that's real. Let's see, Joe Brandon Smith from Facebook, the life of community hit the hardest as the Destino and Cruise students experience isolation during not being able to do this meeting in person. Caleb from Phoenix, they've been carrying guilt of going home and having food, TP, and really more than enough. Maybe some of you could feel that way, like, oh man, I feel bad that we're okay, but our people are suffering. For Kimmy, it's been seen as a quote unquote vacation with some students, but it's hard when other students are at home in toxic situations. Yeah. And this is what makes our community so unique and special, because a lot of Zoom calls out there aren't dealing with this stuff, right? They're figuring out just how to have fun content. And a lot, we just had a little bit of a deeper place of that. So it's good. Anybody else? What area of life is your community feeling hit the hardest? If you just jumped on or you jumped on late, there were 4 questions we asked. What is the biggest personal leadership struggle you're having right now in the crisis? Biggest challenge you're having staying connected to your community? Biggest need you find yourself feeling right now within your community? And what area of life is your community feeling hit the hardest? Tito from New York. For many who are going through grief, going to work, church, engaging in community allowed an escape from the thoughts and emotions, having somebody present or being able to spend time with. And there are a lot of triggers, photos, etc. It's been difficult to be at home and to engage in that way. That's just real, man. So continue to share with us. Anybody else want to just share? You can unmute yourself. Any four of those questions are open. Would love to hear from somebody.
You know, one of the things that we are dealing with in our community is meth, drugs. It's getting really rampant and just overrunning some of our youth here. Our church is right below the high school, but it's becoming worse and worse as the years go on. And I know we're not the only ones, but struggling to find the way of getting them out of that and to overcome that has been a journey for us here. And so that's and with this isolation, I've been hearing a lot of our students and stuff going back into that. So that's one of the things that we struggle with, how we help them during this time.
That's good. Thanks, Tanner. And Tanner, where are you at?
Bryson City, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Thank you, brother. Thank you for what you're doing out there, man, and just pressing through. I know that there's a rise. We talked about possible rise of crime. I know Tanner was sharing people using more drugs. I mean, honestly, it's like I'm anxious, I'm stressed, I want to escape. I know that's true. I know we've also seen some things about the rise of porn use, and that's been like going through the roof. It's like by hundreds, right? It's like 200% use in porn, and that's going to ravage our young people. Both boys and girls, but a lot of young men. They're just escaping to that. And if we're honest, a lot of our leaders. So these are things that we just have to be aware of to help guys do that.
Hey, Tommy, can I say something real quick?
Absolutely, man. Speak on it.
So we are 3 months into a very different context. We would represent kind of what you just shared, Sean, our community in terms of families that are sitting at home with a bunch of toilet paper and just kind of waiting this out. And so we're asking our youth, hey, how are you doing? What can we do for you? And like just yesterday, we're asking those questions, and like the dominant response is like more challenges on Instagram. Like essentially like we need to be entertained because we're bored. And that's really frustrating to hear. And so I think for us, our challenge being in an affluent community is how do we get them to see the full picture and say, we have this amazing opportunity to be the body. So how can we go and meet the need? I think right now, given just the government shutdown and regulations, a lot of families just feel like, hey, like doing anything public, like we just want to obey the rules. So we just need to sit home and wait it out while people with, like you described, Sean, like people who are really hurting right now, like they're just every day is just digging a hole. And so we're in this kind of, middle ground. Like how do we encourage, inspire, give ideas? How do we bridge the gap? Like I'm even asking, like, how can we partner with another youth ministry and a more low income family, and do some, I don't know, pen pal, a gift, mailing a gift.
Deliver Little Caesars pizza to their kids.
Yeah. Like what can we do to say, we can be the church right now more than ever. Like if you're bored, you're not following Jesus right. So, so those are kind of the things that we're kind of finding, because we've been really wanting to make sure, how are you doing? Are you good? Are you good? And the dominant response is, yeah, we're bored.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks so much for sharing that, brother. I think here's another opportunity, friends, is that we also, in a healthy way, we have to keep some of our people busy, right? And so there are missional opportunities right now. And you, Carlos, you kind of talked a little bit about it. How can we mobilize? And shoot, how can we mobilize together as a community? All these people here on this call, and you got some people going, man, we need some of this. Well, can we get your people to get on Amazon and send them some stuff? There's some ideas here that can happen. Hey, can we, can we get different groups of students talking, you know what I mean? And sharing, can we come up with Zoom calls that just share different experiences, almost as like a cultural experiment? I don't know. There's so many things that I think you guys are some of the most resilient and creative people I know, because of where you're coming from and because of what we're involved in doing. So I think if we can make some space for that, we could actually help mobilize those people. And it's not just people in affluent areas as well that need that as well. You have all these digital native kids that are just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. These are opportunities to invite them to come help you do what you guys do. You can't do it all. And Erica shared that earlier. We're not the saviors. We're here to help people become who they're created to be. This crisis is a catalyst to that. So we got to take risks on people. We got to ask them to step up. We got to, hey, can you do this for me? I'm doing that with my own community, and asking them to do stuff because I'm overwhelmed, right? Just like you guys. So it's super important. But we captured that. Let's think more about that, Carlson, too. Maybe Ilse and Carlos, maybe we can figure some things out and put some resources out to make this thing happen. And Sean heard that, and I know his wheels are turning. We're going to figure some stuff out. So guys, my kind of time right now is done. As far as like this section of this call, I want to thank you guys. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for standing in the gap. Thank you. And encourage those of you guys that feel like you're failing. It's okay, man. Failure is a great teacher. We're just going to keep on figuring this out. And like, again, Erica shared, we're in the first week of this thing. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. Hang in there. Take care of yourself. We're going to be with you. We're with you. We're for you. We are you. We're doing it with you. And we got this community to do it together. So bless you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over to Cherie. And she's just going to lead us to a time of some Q&A. Also, the poll just popped up on your screen again. If you haven't done the poll, please do that as Cherie leads us into our next section.
Yeah. So, Erica, I wanted to just respond to what you said. Hold on, I'm hearing some noise. There we go. About just your frustration with trying to keep balance and feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And I definitely had that feeling last week. And so I want to just read over you guys Luke 10:38 through 42. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. Yeah, I think for me, and I just want to encourage all of you just to, this is an awesome time to sit at the Lord's feet and to balance, the feeling that the weight of the world is on your shoulders, but God is bigger, and he is sovereign. So I just want to re-emphasize that, Erica. Yeah, like we're not saviors. There's only one savior, right? It's Jesus. And so just choose that. Choose his feet. When you feel stressed, choose his feet. I All right, so you know the poll is open, so if you could answer that, that'd be great. I also want to bring up another concern. It may seem like we're just letting you guys tell all the things that, you know, are triggers or traumatic or what you need, and we're not going to answer it, but I want to promise you we actually are. So our 5 commitments, I want to read these off really quick, just so you know, like, what you're sharing it's not falling on deaf ears. Like, we are listening, and we're responding by, and you're going to hear more about this, creation of networks, getting stronger national networks in place, and regional networks in place to encourage resource and care for you. We are trying to curate and find the best practices that are happening right now, and then share those with you so that you can engage with your youth in this time of physical distancing. We are committed to speaking now. This is what this is right now. We're having conversations. And so we want to continue to have conversations with you and really discuss how this whole new reality is going to impact the future of the church. Collaboration. We love seeing all of you all on here, like 40 people on here, like, yo, what can we do together? How can we collaborate? Take a look around the Zoom call. Figure out who's on here. Is anybody close to you? Anybody you want to link up with that you can collaborate with? You're not in this alone. Creating now, as a creative director, like, we're listening right now to figure out what content should we be putting out, what resources do we need to make to help you do your ministry and have an impact and care for your soul as well. So just know this isn't just like falling on deaf ears. We are totally hearing you. All right, so with that, I'm going to move on to our Q&A section. This is where you can pose the questions, okay? So in the chat, you can pose a question, or if you would like to say it or whatever, you can make sure your video is on, unmute yourself, and go ahead and speak on it. So any questions to the audience that you have right now that you would like real-time feedback on, go ahead. And again, you can put it in the chat, or you can just say it right now live. Just unmute yourself.
I think one thing that I've noticed a lot on social media and in conversations I've had with leaders is just a fear of the racism that's been going on with a lot of this COVID-19 stuff, and you know, even just memes and jokes and stuff like that. I guess not a question, but just something that we need to be really concerned about and just continue to press into with people. So that's my thought.
Okay.
Hey, Andrew, I could kind of empathize with what you're sharing. I don't know how well everyone's following this kind of stuff, but probably the people group that's being most affected as far as racism goes are Asian Americans. And you can see a lot of different stories all over the country. I think a good portion of that happened in New York from what I saw. Some of that's happening in the Bay Area. And as much as people can say like, hey, it's just ignorance or it's fear, I would say, like, as an Asian American, right? Like the thing that would probably be most helpful is some solidarity, right? Like some solidarity to be, hey, that's not right, obviously. But the other portion is like, you know, even looking at my own biases, right? Like looking at my own biases where I see, like in that same way, I have to examine biases for other things that I view, but looking at my own biases and how can I at least advocate, you know, and at least address that kind of ignorance. Not necessarily dig into conflict and be like, hey man, like you better stop that, or it's just like, that's unnecessary, man. That's like totally unnecessary. Like you just need to step away. You just go your own way, just step away. But when it turns to things like violence and whatnot, I would say that for the Asian American community, you know, there's a lot of stigmas and stereotypes of how Asians will respond to stuff. And just being real simple, it's like either it's passive or it's like incredibly aggressive, right? So that's something I'm like super aware of. But at the same time, you know, just having from a faith standpoint, having people that are of common faith and just being able to have some solidarity and unity, advocacy, and speaking up, it does a world of difference. Not because like, and I'm gonna put it this way, and it's not because I'm offended, but it's not because like I need your protection, right? But I need the unity. That's probably the best way I could say it, right? I don't need your protection. I don't need like, hey, woe is me, but I need your unity to show that this is a, very simply put, this is a really ignorant view that someone else is trying to project. And if I can do anything, like if I'm doing anything to support someone that I feel is being discriminated, then solidarity and advocacy is probably the best thing. So I appreciate you bringing that up, man.
Mm-hmm. Very good. I think this just helps us to recognize as leaders, we need to really be careful with our words. And I liked what William said about having a newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other. Like, I think when we give misinformation, we spread narratives that aren't true. And that's kind of where this came from. One of our leaders, our biggest leader in our country, called it the Chinese disease. And now, you know, it kind of sparked all this craziness. So I think as leaders, we need to understand, and they can actually cause a lot of harm. People we love. So there's a question here from Facebook. How would you support youth workers who are diagnosed with COVID or have family members that are? How can you support youth workers who are diagnosed with COVID or have a family member that is? Well, I'll answer that. I think one thing could be is just give the youth worker permission to understand that they can rest and they don't have to work. They don't have to do anything other than get well and keep themselves safe and other people safe. I think we have to know when to stop and rest. Next question. I have that one. Do I have any more? Oh, that's all I actually have. Anyone else want to ask a question?
Hey guys, I'm jumping in on that COVID question. My wife is a medical professional and she's on the front line seeing this stuff every day. And I think I agree with Cherie, like, you know, hey, give that person space because they're probably overwhelmed, the youth worker at least. But on the health side of things, please, like, I think it's our best interest to be as informed as possible. We are the people that when a kid calls us and says, I ran away from home, it's like, all right, it's 2 a.m., but I'm gonna go pick you up. You know, like we are those kinds of people. And so in some ways, there's some wisdom in all this as well. Hey, being informed and saying like, you need to quarantine. You need to like, cause let me tell you this, like I'm in a situation at my church where, you know, there's a family of 4 and the wife, she's a medical professional and she's showing symptoms and they're like, what do we do? Like our whole family's been together for you know, obviously this whole time, and they're trying to figure out all that stuff. There's some really hard decisions about how do you quarantine, how do you get proper medical care if you can. Obviously our communities are at a different kind of perspective on that, if you have access or not. But just the issue of safety and health, you know, that's really important, right? not just like social distancing or whatever, but you already got to that point. So Matu, you're the one who asked the question. I would say make sure you understand what are the best protocols. Go to consult medical professionals, obviously, because the last thing is out of our desire to help that we then become at risk, right? And so that's our best intentions that sometimes may be acting, you know? So that would be my comment to that. Not that it's like not coming from a good heart, but it's like, what's the wisest thing we can do? And then the support side is like, if you're needing people to like help provide meals or shopping or those, that's a network you'd reach out to, the people that you know trust, and they can do all of the drop-offs or whatever, or at least try to set up that kind of a system. Those are probably things that would be more helpful, you know, because that person can't be out, you know. So those are just some thoughts that I had towards that.
Very good. All right, we'll do one last question. This comes from JP Paulus, and it's in Chicago, we used to have something called the Urban Youth Workers Network, where we had youth workers supporting each other. We met once a month for prayer and then connected outside. 12 to 20 years ago, it was strong, but has since dropped. Is anyone aware of something new in Chicago or similar elsewhere?
I actually hit up JP directly too, and so asked some questions about that. But if anybody does know, we are looking to connect with anybody doing networks and or what used to be there. And so we want to revive those. We're not trying to own them, but we need this to happen now. So JP, hit me back. I asked you some questions on a direct message. Would love to chop it up, see who are the leaders we should go approach to say, how can we help you create that network? So
awesome.
So that might be a good, yeah.
Yeah, this is a great transition into Sean Fenner. And Sean is going to talk to us a little bit about networks and how he imagines them to be and how you can get connected with urban youth workers now. Sean?
Yeah, so hey, thank you everybody. I'm going to be really quick and just go through some what and how, but first thing I want to do is just start with the why. You know, the reality is that we're in a crisis right now. The nation, the world is in a crisis. And I think we believe at UYWI that the way we respond in the midst of this crisis is going to be how the world knows the church coming out of the crisis. I read a newspaper article in Long Beach from the Great Depression, and one of the pastors in Long Beach said this. He said that the Great Depression would not hit Long Beach the same way it was hitting the rest of the nation because of the way the church would respond. And we believe that you are the exceptional leaders that are going to help us meet these pain points and realities. For many of you, you've been living daily in crisis. Your teens have been living daily in crisis. And so you are the frontline first responders that really are the how-to on what we need to do to respond in the midst of this reality and then coming out of it. And so I just wanted to start with that because we're going to give a little bit of a what, and then we're going to get a little bit of a how, but we have to understand that, you know, we deal with these things on a regular basis. And the way that we see you at UYWI is we see you as experts and first responders, just like John talked about some of these medical professionals that are, you know, putting their life on the line, putting their health on the line. You are doing that for the now church, right? The future is here. It's not the next generation, it's the now generation. And so we just want you to know that's the why that you need to be networked into this national network. And then I'm just going to give you a couple of quick things. So we have some major objectives, and this is our what, right? We want to gather and connect, and we're going to do that internally and then externally. So we're going to gather groups of leaders in your area, connect them regularly and consistently. And then we're going to seek to connect you guys with schools, orgs, and community by providing opportunities for gatherings and events where you are, give you some practical tools on how you can do that. And then what we want to do is help carry and care. So internally, we want to help you carry the burdens of your community. We want to pray with you regularly, and we want to believe as we rally you around these pain points that God is going to bring healing into your community. And we want to give you external ways that we believe we can help you do that. And then third, we want to create and collaborate. So We want to create opportunity for collaboration, idea, resources, talent. What I was hearing on this call is that you can't do everything. And we know that. But there are many people on this call that do certain things extremely well. So as we gather and share that information, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can all do this together, and we will be better when we're together. And then we want to see that pushed out into the nation. We want to see positive change across the entire nation, and really what we believe is going to be a world movement for the future. So what can you do right now? This is the question. What can you do right now? We're asking 3 initial things, just 3 simple things. Number 1 is support. You can support us by engaging with a national Facebook group that we've created. So it's going to go in the comments section, in the chat section. You're going to get the link to that. We want you to join on that. We're going to be creating networks out of a new resource that we've been given, but it's all going to start here on this Facebook group. And what do we need from you in this Facebook group? We need you to be posting what you're doing well. We need you to be interacting with each other. We need you to be asking questions so that you have a national network of people that are behind you and supporting you. Many of you don't feel valued. Many of you aren't supported by your local church. Maybe your senior pastor is more distant than he's ever been or she's ever been. Now's the time for you to get the resources that you need. So that's the support. Number 2 is we want you to create your own support groups. So this is not just a national thing. This breaks down regionally and citywide. We need localized efforts to support leaders where they are and give encouragement, resources, and care in the midst of this reality and the reality that we're going to be walking into. Number 3, we're going to ask you to share best practices. Just share with us what you're doing. What are you an expert at? Help us help you help your students. We want to platform you and share with you what other leaders are doing to connect and engage with youth. For example, one thing I'm going to ask Kimmy to do, Kimmy's on this call, she's our youth leader at our church, is she created an entire digital plan all the way through Easter. We want her to just begin to share resources like that. Bobby Lopez has created resources for you to get everything you need to get online. These are all things that you don't need to go find in other spaces, but you can come directly to us. So those are some practical and immediate things that we believe are going to help build a national network of first responders that we really believe are going to help the world change, this movement happen, because the future is now. And this crisis has brought us into a reality that the church is awakening to. You guys are the experts. You guys are the first responders. And we want you to be equipped in every way that we can to do that, both locally, regionally, and nationally. So we just want to thank you guys for your time, and we're excited to connect with you on that.
Yeah. And so we have a Facebook group, Sean, and if you could just explain what's the difference between these workers joining our Facebook group versus just liking UYWI on Facebook. What's the requirements for the Facebook group?
Yeah, so the important part of the Facebook group is we want you to be sharing your needs there. We want you to be sharing your resources there. We want that to be a space for community directly. So when you go to UYWI and you click on the page, we're getting some incredible content that we're going to be using on a regular basis. I don't know about you guys, but man, I've taken so many things from UYWI, the discipleship toolkit, 90 degrees, these teachings that have been coming out. People like Jay Scott and Will have just been giving me so many good ideas on how we should be doing urban ministry in our reality. But this community group is going to be more about what you're doing. What are you an expert in? How can you share it? And it's real time. You don't have to wait for anybody to come video you or tape it or anything like that. You can post it directly in there. The other thing is it's a safe space for you to ask real hard questions, right? You can't always log on a Zoom call. Now, this Zoom call is happening at this moment, at this time. Maybe you need a resource right now. You can go straight to that Facebook group. You can post that need. And then you have incredible moderators and leaders that are all over the nation that are doing this in an incredible way that can answer that and help you meet that need right now.
Awesome. And so one of the things we want to post on our Facebook group is a picture of all of us. Hey, 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 hey. So make sure your environment's cool, you're cool, turn on your camera. And John is going to take 2 screenshots because we have so many people on. We're going to have to do 2 different views, I'm guessing. So John, are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready for your screen capture?
So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 for the first one, and then I'll do for the second. All right? Sean Fenner. Extra. 1, 2, 3. All right, we're doing the second one. All right. So let's see. Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. All right, guys.
Awesome. All right, we are gonna go ahead and close up, but let me give a couple announcements so you know what to expect moving forward. All right, so we are gonna continue to have Zoom calls. So we're gonna have another one next Thursday. So go ahead and look at the Facebook group to know what time that will be, in our Instagram and Twitter and all the things, UYWI. We are also wanting you to go to that Facebook group. So the link to join it, if you haven't already joined it, to get real-time information, is in the chat. It's listed there right now. You can go to it and Sean will decide if you are approved. He's the magical leader of this. So I think that is it. Thank you guys so much for everything. And Tommy's gonna pray us out. And we just wanna keep encouraging you to share and know that you're not alone. And we are you, we are for you. All right, Tommy?
Yeah, let's pray, brothers and sisters. Holy Spirit, I just ask that wherever each one of us are, since you live within us, you're around us, we are in your presence. Lord, right now, Holy Spirit, would you just rest on our minds and our shoulders? Let those shoulders drop, brothers and sisters, and to the bottom of our feet, Holy Spirit, and just fill us, God, with your presence, with your power, with your wisdom, with your grace, with your mercy, Lord. God, we're here, and this is an opportunity for us to grow deep with you. Help us not be distracted by the work of Jesus and forget you, Jesus. And so, Lord, help us, God. We need you. We're desperate for you. And we care so much about your glory, your kingdom, and those who are trying to get to know you, God, and those who don't know you, Lord. Empower us, God. Show us the way. We love you, Lord. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Much love to all you guys, man. Thank you so much.